Mom, are they taking us away? Caleb's whisper came from the darkness behind her, small enough to break Nia Carter's heart and loud enough to make the security guard outside the van stop knocking. For one terrible second, no one moved. Red lights from the tow truck swept across the fogged windows, painting the sleeping faces of 7-year-old Maya and 3-year-old Zoe in brief flashes of crimson. Nia pushed herself upright in the driver's seat, her neck stiff from sleeping against the window, her right hand still curled around the keys. The dashboard clock read 2:17 a.m. She had meant to close her eyes for 10 minutes. Just 10. Long enough to stop the road from blurring before she drove to the community clinic, where she had a job interview at 7:30. Long enough for the children to sleep somewhere warm. But the engine had gone cold, the parking lot was nearly empty, and a yellow notice beneath the McDonald's sign warned that overnight vehicles would be removed. The guard knocked again, softer this time. "Ma'am, I need you to open the door." Nia glanced into the rearview mirror. Caleb was awake beneath his winter coat, watching her with the careful expression he wore whenever he was trying not to frighten his sisters. Maya remained curled against a backpack, one sneaker missing. Zoe slept in her car seat with her mouth slightly open, each breath carrying a faint whistle. Nia's stomach tightened. "We're fine," she called through the glass. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "We were just resting. We're leaving now." The guard pointed toward the tow truck. "The lot closes for cleaning. You've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Nia pushed the key into the ignition. The engine clicked. Nothing. She tried again. Click. The tow truck's lights continued turning behind her, slow and patient, as if they already knew how this would end. "Come on," she whispered, pressing her forehead briefly against the steering wheel. She had $11.43 in her checking account, half a tank of gas she could no longer use, and 72 hours before Dana Brooks from Family Services checked whether the children had a safe place to sleep. The van was not safe. Nia knew that. But it was together. Together still counted for something. A cough came from the back seat. Zoe stirred, then coughed again, sharper this time. Nia twisted around. "Baby." Zoe's eyes opened, glassy and confused. Her small chest rose too quickly beneath her pink sweatshirt. Nia reached into the side pocket of the diaper bag and pulled out the inhaler. She shook it. Too light. 1 dose, maybe. Her fingers trembled as she fitted it into the spacer. "Slow breath, sweetheart. Just like we practiced." Outside, the guard spoke into his radio. Caleb watched the inhaler, then looked at the tow truck. "Mom," he said, "I can carry Zoe if we have to walk." Nia swallowed hard. He was 10 years old. He should have been worried about spelling tests, not escape plans. She gave Zoe the medicine and counted each breath while Maya woke and began rubbing her eyes. "Are we at our new apartment?" Maya asked. Nia could not answer. On the floor beneath her seat lay a creased envelope stamped with the blue and silver logo of Bennett Urban Holdings. Final relocation notice. The paper that had ended their lease. The paper that promised assistance no one had ever sent. A black SUV entered the lot and stopped behind the tow truck. The security guard straightened immediately. A tall black man stepped out wearing a dark overcoat over what looked like an expensive suit, though his tie was loosened and rain had gathered on his shoulders. He did not look at the McDonald's sign or the tow truck first. He looked through the van's fogged window at Zoe, struggling to breathe. Then his gaze dropped to the envelope near Nia's feet. Something in his face changed. Not pity. Recognition. He approached slowly, keeping both hands visible, and stopped several feet from the driver's door. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm against the mechanical rumble of the tow truck. "May I call medical help for your daughter?" Nia tightened her grip on the inhaler. "Who are you?" The man looked again at the logo on the envelope, then at the signature printed beneath it. His own signature. "Marcus Bennett," he said quietly. And for the first time that night, the billionaire sounded like a man who was afraid of the answer to his next question. "How long have your children been sleeping in this car?" Marcus did not move closer. The restraint unsettled Nia more than urgency would have. Most people who saw a sick child either rushed forward without asking or stepped away as if hardship could spread. He did neither. He waited. Zoe took another shallow breath through the spacer, her small fingers wrapped around Nia's wrist. "The medicine is working," Nia said, though she was not yet certain. Marcus looked toward the McDonald's entrance, where a woman in a red manager's shirt had appeared behind the glass doors. "It is warm inside," he said. Your daughter should not stay in the cold. And my van? Nia asked. The tow truck driver had already lowered the metal platform. Marcus turned to the security guard. Give her 15 minutes. The guard hesitated, then nodded as if Marcus had not made a request but changed the rules of the night. Nia noticed it. She noticed everything now. The expensive coat. The black vehicle. The way strangers listened when he spoke. I did not ask you to do that, she said. No, Marcus replied. You did not. He stepped back from the door. You can say no to everything else. But let your children get warm while the mechanic checks the battery. Nia looked at Caleb. He had already pulled Maya's missing sneaker from beneath the seat and was helping her put it on. 10 years old, and he understood that adults sometimes needed their decisions made easier. Nia hated that. She hated how exhaustion had turned every small kindness into something she had to measure for hidden costs. 1 cup of coffee, she said, and we stay where I can see the van. The manager unlocked the side entrance and introduced herself as Lena Price. She did not stare at the blankets, the bags, or the children's rumpled clothes. She simply led them to a booth near the window and turned up the heat. Kitchen is closed, Lena said, but I can still make pancakes. We cannot pay for 4 breakfasts, Nia answered. You are not paying, Marcus said. Her eyes hardened. I said I do not take charity. Lena placed 4 paper cups of water on the table. Then call it the night crew meal. I have thrown away more food than 4 plates before sunrise. Nia looked at her, searching for pity and finding none. 3 plates, she said. I am not hungry. Caleb lowered his eyes. Marcus noticed. 4, Lena said gently, and walked toward the kitchen before Nia could argue. The children slid into the booth. Zoe leaned against Nia, breathing more evenly now. Marcus remained standing until Nia gave a small nod toward the opposite seat. He sat at the far end, leaving space between them. Outside, a roadside mechanic lifted the hood of the van beneath the white parking lot lights. How did you know about the side entrance? Nia asked. Marcus glanced toward the counter, where Lena was pouring batter onto a griddle. My mother worked nights at a McDonald's when I was a boy. Different city. Same smell. His eyes rested briefly on the children. Coffee, fryer oil, floor cleaner before dawn. It was the first thing about him that did not sound expensive. Dana Brooks arrived 20 minutes later wearing a navy coat over wrinkled scrubs. Nia's shoulders tightened the moment she saw the county identification card clipped to Dana's bag. I did not call her, Marcus said. The security guard did when he saw the children. Dana sat beside Nia rather than across from her. She checked Zoe's breathing, asked where they had slept the previous 2 nights, and listened without interrupting. I have a job interview this morning, Nia said. The clinic starts at 7:30. I can fix this. Dana's expression remained kind, but her words did not soften. You have 72 hours to show me a safe sleeping arrangement. I am not here to separate your family, Nia. I am here because the children need heat, running water, and a locked door. Nia looked through the window at the van. The mechanic closed the hood and shook his head. Her interview clothes were hanging from a hook behind the driver's seat. Her entire plan had depended on that engine turning over. Marcus placed a hotel key card on the table, then withdrew his hand. 1 room, 1 night, paid directly. No photographs, no press, no obligation. Nia stared at the card. And tomorrow? Tomorrow is still yours, he said. She wanted to refuse. Pride rose inside her like a wall. Then Zoe coughed against her shoulder, and the wall became something else. Something dangerous. Nia took the card. 1 night, she said. For them. Marcus nodded. For them. Lena arrived with pancakes, eggs, and 4 small cartons of milk. Caleb ate half his stack, wrapped the rest in a napkin, and slipped it into Maya's backpack when he thought no one was watching. Marcus saw him. He said nothing. Instead, he picked up the relocation notice Nia had placed beside her purse and studied the claim number. This file says your family received $8,000 in relocation assistance, he said. The warmth disappeared from Nia's face. We received nothing. Marcus turned the page over, his jaw tightening as he found a payment confirmation beneath her name. Someone signed for it. Nia took the paper from him and looked at the unfamiliar signature. Her exhaustion did not vanish. It changed shape. Then find out who stole my name, she said. Nia left the hotel room before sunrise with her interview blouse folded inside a plastic grocery bag so the morning mist would not wrinkle it. Dana had arranged a rideshare voucher. but Nia refused to let the driver stop directly in front of the clinic. She asked to be dropped 1 block away. She did not want anyone watching her step out of a car she had not paid for. Caleb stood beside the hotel window holding Zoe's inhaler while Maya slept across the bed with one arm wrapped around a pillow. "You are going to get the job," he said. Nia forced a smile. "I am going to earn the chance to get the job." She kissed all 3 children, reminded Caleb that Dana would stay until she returned, then walked into the cold carrying everything she had left of her professional life in a grocery bag. The community clinic smelled like disinfectant, burnt coffee, and the faint sweetness of children's cough syrup. At 7:26, Nia entered the waiting room wearing a navy blouse she had dried beneath a hand dryer in the hotel bathroom. Her shoes were polished with a tissue. Her resume had a crease through the center. The receptionist glanced at the clock, then at Nia. "You made it. I said I would." The interview began with ordinary questions about scheduling, patient records, and insurance verification. Nia answered carefully, keeping her hands folded so no one would see how tired they were. Then a nurse rushed into the conference room. A patient in the lobby was having trouble breathing, and the front desk had become confused in the sudden movement. The clinic director started to rise, but Nia was already at the door. An older man sat forward in a chair, one hand pressed against his chest, panic widening his eyes. His daughter stood beside him, speaking too quickly. Nia lowered herself until she was at his eye level. "Sir, look at me," she said. "You do not have to explain anything yet. Just follow my hand." She raised her palm slowly, then lowered it with each measured breath. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. The nurse is bringing oxygen. You are not alone." The man's shoulders loosened before the equipment even arrived. Nia stayed beside him until his breathing steadied. When she returned to the conference room, the clinic director closed the folder containing her resume. "Can you start Monday?" Nia stared at her. "Is that a yes?" "It is a conditional offer," the director said. 3 months probation. Full-time hours. Benefits after 60 days. Nia's throat tightened, but she refused to cry in that room. She signed the preliminary paperwork with a pen that had the clinic's name printed along the side. It was the first thing she had signed in months that felt like a beginning instead of an ending. By the time she returned to the hotel, Marcus was waiting in the lobby near a television tuned to a business news channel. He stood when he saw her, but Nia's attention had already shifted to the screen. His face filled it. The same calm eyes. The same dark overcoat. Beneath his photograph, a banner read, "Bennett Urban Holdings Chief Executive Marcus Bennett faces Key City vote." Nia stopped walking. The grocery bag slipped slightly in her hand. On the screen behind him appeared a rendering of luxury apartments rising where Riverside Gardens had once stood, where her children had once shared a bedroom, where her husband's photograph had hung above the kitchen table. Marcus saw the moment recognition reached her. "Nia," he said. She pulled the relocation notice from her purse and held it between them. "This is your company." "Yes." "Your name is on the letter." "Yes." His honesty made the anger sharper. "You sat with my children. You bought breakfast. You gave us a room." Her voice stayed low, but every word carried. "Did you think that erased this?" "No." "Did you know who I was before you came to the van?" "No, but you knew after you saw the envelope." Marcus did not look away. "I knew the project. I did not know your file had been mishandled." Nia laughed once, without humor. "Mishandled? That is what people call it when the damage happens far enough away from their office." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I am opening an internal review. You do not get to review my life like a quarterly report." People in the lobby had begun to notice them. Marcus lowered his voice. "You are right." The answer stopped her for half a second. "Not knowing is a luxury," she said. "My children slept in a car because you could afford not to know." She handed him copies of the notice, the payment page, and the certified mail receipt she had kept inside a plastic sleeve. "You want the truth? Start there. But do not put my children in a press release. Do not use my name. And do not send me another gift." Marcus accepted the papers with both hands. "I will not." Nia turned toward the elevators. Before the doors closed, Marcus called Andre Lewis, the head of corporate compliance. "Freeze every Riverside relocation file," he said. There was a pause on the line, then a quiet intake of breath. "Sir," Andre replied. "Someone ordered those records destroyed last night." Marcus ended the call and looked through the glass lobby doors toward the pale morning sky. For years, He had believed records were permanent because systems were designed to remember. Now someone inside his company was counting on the opposite. "Andre, tell me exactly what happened," he said. "The destruction request came through document control at 11:48 last night," Andre replied. It covered Riverside relocation files, vendor invoices, tenant appeals, and payment confirmations. The request was marked routine retention cleanup. Routine cleanup does not happen the night before a city vote. "I know. I stopped the physical disposal, but part of the digital archive was already removed." Marcus looked down at Nia's certified mail receipt. The faded postal stamp suddenly felt heavier than the tablet in his other hand. "Can you recover it?" "Maybe. The backup server keeps snapshots for 30 days, but whoever issued the order knew our system. They targeted the index first." Marcus walked toward the exit. "Meet me in the compliance room." No assistants. No executive staff. 2 hours later, he stood beneath the cold fluorescent lights of a windowless office 40 floors below his own. Andre sat before 3 monitors, restoring fragments of deleted files one line at a time. Rows of names appeared, vanished, then returned in broken pieces. Nia Carter was not the only one. 46 families had been marked as voluntarily relocated. 46 payment confirmations showed assistance distributed. 46 complaint records had been closed without resolution. "That is not an administrative mistake," Marcus said. Andre leaned closer to the screen. "The money went through Harbor Path Relocation Services. They were hired as an outside vendor 6 months ago." "Who approved them?" Andre hesitated. "The contract came from the office of Evelyn Shaw." Marcus said nothing. Evelyn had been his chief operating officer for 9 years. She had helped him build Bennett Urban Holdings from 3 borrowed offices into one of the largest Black-owned development companies in the country. She had also warned him that Riverside had to clear before Friday or the financing would collapse. At noon, Marcus found her in the executive conference room studying a presentation titled Community Renewal Progress. Evelyn looked up from the screen, immaculate in a charcoal suit, her expression already guarded. "You froze the Riverside files," she said. "Someone tried to destroy them. Old records are cleared every quarter." Marcus placed Nia's receipt on the table. "A tenant mailed this appeal 3 weeks before she was removed. Our system says we never received it." Evelyn glanced at the paper. "One missing appeal does not prove fraud. There are 46. Her face did not change, but her fingers stopped moving over the keyboard. "Then investigate quietly after the city vote. Families are sleeping in cars now. And if this project collapses, more than 2,000 employees could lose their jobs next month." Evelyn closed the laptop. "You think compassion means stopping everything the moment a painful story reaches your desk. I think responsibility means protecting the entire company." Marcus heard the logic in her words. That made them more dangerous. Responsibility also means knowing who paid the price for our success. Do not turn one woman into a symbol because you found her at the right emotional moment. Marcus's voice remained low. She was not found at the right moment. She was failed for months. Across town, Nia lifted the rear seat of the van while a mechanic waited beside her. The battery could be replaced, but the alternator was failing, and the repair would cost more than she could earn in her first 2 weeks at the clinic. She did not argue. She opened the storage compartment beneath the floor and removed a clear plastic box. Inside were rent receipts, certified mail slips, printed emails, and handwritten notes from every call she had made after receiving the relocation notice. Her husband, Isaiah, had taught her to keep them. "Paper remembers what people deny," he used to say whenever a landlord or insurance company promised something over the phone. Nia carried the box back to the hotel and spread its contents across the small desk while the children colored on the carpet. At the bottom, she found a certified receipt showing Bennett Urban Holdings had accepted her appeal at 9:14 on a Tuesday morning. Beneath it was a voicemail transcript from a relocation agent promising payment within 5 business days. The money never came. She photographed every page and sent the files to Andre using the secure address Marcus had provided. Less than a minute later, Marcus called. "This receipt proves the company had your appeal before your file was closed," he said. "Then use it." "Nia, if we expose this before Friday, the board may remove me." She looked at Caleb helping Zoe fit the cap back onto a marker. "My children already lost their home," she said. "Do not ask me to be afraid of you losing an office." Marcus closed his eyes. I am not asking. That afternoon, Lena called with a temporary opening in a safe parking program run by a local church. Nia accepted before pride could answer for her. It was not a home, but it offered showers, security, and a legal place to sleep while she began work. A small victory. Then Andre called Marcus again. I found the authorization trail, he said. The account that approved the file changes belongs to the chief operating officer's office. Marcus stared through the compliance room window at the city below. Does Evelyn know you found it? Not yet. Before Marcus could respond, his phone lit with an emergency notice from the board. A vote had been scheduled for that evening to suspend his authority if he delayed Riverside without documented proof of criminal misconduct. He had the receipt. He had 46 names. But the restored records were still incomplete. And somewhere inside his company, someone knew exactly how little time he had left. The board meeting lasted 37 minutes. Marcus spent the first 12 listening to people who had praised his instincts for years explain why those same instincts had suddenly become a liability. The conference room windows reflected the city in long strips of gold and black, making every face appear doubled. Evelyn sat 3 chairs away, composed, one hand resting beside a closed folder. We are not debating whether tenant complaints matter, said Walter Gaines, the board chairman. We are debating whether you have enough verified evidence to jeopardize a project that supports thousands of jobs. Marcus placed the certified receipt on the table. This proves at least one appeal was received and ignored. One, another director said. Andre recovered 46 related records. Related is not verified. The words settled over the room like dust. Marcus understood what they were asking him to do. Wait. Protect the vote. Let the families remain numbers until the numbers became convenient. He looked at Evelyn. Did your office authorize the file changes? She met his gaze without blinking. My office authorizes thousands of system actions every month. That is not the same as authorizing misconduct. Then support a delay. No, her answer came quickly. Because delay will trigger default clauses by Friday morning. The lenders will withdraw. Contractors will stop work. Payroll reductions will follow. She leaned forward. You are not the only person carrying responsibility in this room. Marcus looked again at the receipt, its edges softened by Nia's hands. Then I am requesting 48 hours. Walter folded his glasses. You have until tomorrow at noon to produce evidence strong enough to justify intervention. If you fail, your operational authority will be suspended. It was not a victory, but it was time. Barely. On Monday morning, Nia arrived at the clinic 20 minutes early wearing the same navy blouse and carrying a lunch packed in a reused paper bag. The safe parking program had given the children a quiet place to sleep, but quiet was not the same as rest. She had spent half the night checking Zoe's breathing and the other half calculating whether her first paycheck could cover the van, medicine, and an apartment deposit. The answer changed depending on which bill she pretended did not exist. By 10 o'clock, the waiting room was full. Nia moved between intake forms, insurance calls, and frightened patients with steady hands. When an elderly woman named Mrs. Cooper became overwhelmed by a new diagnosis, Nia pulled a chair close instead of speaking across the counter. Let us do one thing at a time, she said. She wrote the next appointment on a card in large letters, circled the bus route, and called the pharmacy to confirm the prescription was ready. The clinic director watched from the hallway. At lunch, she placed an employment packet beside Nia's paper bag. The position is yours, she said. Officially, Nia looked at the benefits page first. Health coverage after 60 days. She pressed her thumb against the paper until the trembling stopped. Thank you. You earned it. Those 3 words stayed with her longer than the offer itself. That evening, Marcus attended a meeting at New Hope Baptist Church where former Riverside residents sat in folding chairs beneath fluorescent lights. He entered without a camera crew, without a prepared statement, and took a seat in the last row. A father described driving 40 miles each way after his daughter was transferred to a new school. A retired nurse explained how her medication had been lost during a rushed move. Nia stood near the front with her plastic box of records open on a table. She saw Marcus but did not acknowledge him. When the residents finished, the pastor asked whether he wanted to speak. Marcus stood. I came to listen. A woman near the aisle crossed her arms. Men like you always say that after the decisions are made. Marcus nodded. Then I should have come before they were. No defense. No promise. Just the admission. Nia noticed the silence that followed. It was different from the silence at the hotel. This one did not protect him. After the meeting, Andre met Marcus beside the church steps and handed him a drive. Harbor Path routed the relocation payments through a consulting firm owned by the brother of one of our project directors. I have invoices, but not yet proof that Evelyn knew. Keep digging. Across the parking lot, Nia was speaking with a nonprofit housing coordinator. A small one-bedroom apartment had opened near the clinic. The rent was tight, but possible once her paycheck started. For the first time in weeks, hope did not feel imaginary. Then Lena called. Nia, I need you to hear this from me before someone sends it to you. A video had appeared online. Grainy security footage showed her asleep in the van while Marcus stood nearby. The caption called it a staged act of charity before the city vote. Within minutes, strangers were sharing her face, her children, and a clipped sentence from that night. Her own voice played from the phone speaker, stripped of every word that came before and after. I need whatever you can give me. Nia went cold. The housing coordinator slowly closed the application folder. And across the lot, Marcus's phone began ringing with calls from reporters who already knew exactly where to find them. The first camera arrived before Nia could close the lid on her plastic box. A reporter stepped onto the church parking lot holding a microphone beneath a bright white light, and two more vehicles turned in behind her. Nia's body reacted before her mind did. She moved between the cameras and the children, one hand reaching for Caleb, the other pulling Maya close. Do not film them, she said. The reporter kept walking. Ms. Carter, were you paid to appear in the video with Marcus Bennett? Nia stared at her. My children were asleep in that car. Did Bennett Urban Holdings arrange the scene? There was no scene. Another voice called from behind the first camera. How much money have you received? Caleb's fingers tightened around hers. Zoe began to cry, frightened by the lights and strangers. Marcus crossed the parking lot, but Nia turned on him before he reached them. Did your people do this? No, then how did they get the footage? I do not know yet. You always say that after something happens. The words landed harder because they were true. Marcus looked at the children, then at the cameras. My security team will clear a path to your vehicle. I do not have a working vehicle. Nia's voice broke, and she hated that it did. The housing coordinator had already left with the closed application folder tucked beneath her arm. Across the lot, other families from the safe parking program were gathering their children. One mother approached Nia with tears in her eyes. They know where the church is now, she said. If people complain, we could lose this place. Nia understood the fear behind the accusation. She had brought danger to the only safe place they had. By midnight, the program director asked her family to leave temporarily until the attention faded. Dana found them a motel room for one night, but the county voucher ended the next morning. At the front desk, the clerk watched the viral video on his phone while Nia signed the register. Her own voice filled the lobby. I need whatever you can give me. Caleb stared at the carpet. That is not what you meant, he whispered. Nia knelt in front of him. I know, but everybody thinks it is. She had no answer for that. Across town, Marcus stood inside the communications office while Andre traced access logs from the parking lot security system. The footage had been requested through a corporate crisis account 6 hours after Marcus froze the Riverside files. Only 3 executives had authority to use it. Who approved the release? Marcus asked. Andre turned the monitor. Evelyn Shaw's credentials appeared beside the request. Marcus found her alone in the boardroom, watching financial reports move across a wall screen. You released footage of children sleeping in a car. Evelyn did not deny it. I released evidence that your actions were personal, not corporate. You exposed a family. I protected the company from liability. She turned toward him. For the first time, fatigue showed beneath her composure. You think I do not understand what is at stake? My father lost his job when I was 12. We moved 4 times in 1 year. I learned early that a company without discipline cannot protect anyone. So you sacrificed them to protect the balance sheet. I protected 2,000 employees from losing their paychecks because you decided one heartbreaking case mattered more than all of them. Marcus stepped closer to the table, but his voice remained quiet. It is not one case. Then prove it. I will. Evelyn closed the financial report. And when the lenders walk, when payroll is cut, when families who depend on this company blame you, remember that compassion does not erase consequences. An emergency board vote began at 8 the next morning. Marcus could have blamed Evelyn, claimed ignorance, and preserved his position. Instead, he placed his own performance incentives, reporting structure, and approval policies before the directors. She used the system I built, he said. I created rewards for speed and penalties for delay. I did not order this, but I made it easier to hide. The board suspended his operational authority pending investigation. His access card stopped working before he reached the elevator. At the motel, Nia received 3 calls in 10 minutes. The landlord withdrew the apartment application because of media attention. The mechanic would not release the van without payment. Then Dana arrived carrying 3 empty backpacks. I found temporary placements for the children, she said gently. 48 hours. That gives you time to secure housing. Nia looked toward the bed. Caleb was helping Maya fold her sweater while Zoe lined up crayons by color, unaware of what the bags meant. You said you were not here to separate us. I am trying not to. Then give me another day. Dana's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. I have already given you every hour I am allowed. Caleb picked up Zoe's inhaler and placed it inside the smallest backpack. He did not cry. That hurt more than if he had. Should I pack this? He asked. Or are we coming back tonight? For several seconds, Nia could not make herself answer. The motel room was too quiet. Even the heater had stopped rattling, as if the whole building were waiting to hear whether a 10-year-old boy should pack his little sister's medicine because his family might not sleep under the same roof that night. Put it in the front pocket, she said at last. Caleb nodded once and zipped the backpack. Nia turned away before he could see her face. She had spent 2 years convincing the children that fear was temporary, that every closed door would eventually open, that she could carry whatever came next. Now 3 small bags sat beside the motel door, and every promise she had made seemed to be staring back at her. Dana stepped closer. The placements are with licensed families. Caleb and Maya can stay together. Zoe would be nearby because of her medical needs. Nearby is not together. I know. Nia pressed both palms against the dresser. On top of it lay the folder from the clinic, her employment offer, and the first schedule she had ever been proud to receive. None of it could buy a deposit by noon. What happens if I refuse? Dana did not answer immediately. That was answer enough. A knock came at the door. Nia stiffened, expecting another reporter, but Lena stood outside holding a brown paper bag and the small red backpack Caleb had carried into McDonald's that first night. This was under the booth, she said. I thought you might need it. Caleb took the bag and opened it. Beneath a coloring book and 2 granola bars was a folded sheet of paper. He tried to hide it, but Nia gently held out her hand. The drawing showed a blue van beneath a yellow light. 4 figures sat inside, covered by crooked blankets. Above them, in Caleb's careful block letters, were the words, Mom kept us safe. Nia stared until the colors blurred. She had believed strength meant never letting the children see her accept help. Caleb's drawing told a different story. He had not remembered the broken van or the tow truck. He had remembered that she stayed. Dana, Nia said, folding the paper along its old crease. Give me until the end of the 48 hours. What are you going to do? Nia looked at the box of records beside the bed. Stop asking one family at a time to believe me. At the public library, Andre had reserved a small study room under his own name. He arrived carrying a laptop and a sealed envelope. Marcus came alone, without his driver, his assistant, or the access card that no longer opened his own office. Nia noticed that his suit was the same one he had worn the previous day. For once, he looked less like a billionaire than a man who had run out of places to hide from the truth. Andre opened the recovered database. 46 names appeared beside altered payment records. Your certified receipt connects the original complaint system to the deleted files, he explained. Without your paper copy, the company could claim the data was corrupted. With it, we can prove the records were changed after the appeals were received. Nia looked at Marcus. And if I testify? The city can pause demolition and order an independent audit, Andre said. But the hearing is tomorrow morning, and the demolition permit activates 24 hours later. Marcus placed both hands flat on the table. You should testify only if it helps your children. Not me. Not my company. Nia studied him. What do you get if I stay quiet? A better chance of keeping control. And if I speak, I may lose it. There was no performance in his voice. That mattered, but it was not enough. Then these are my conditions, she said. An independent investigation. A compensation fund your company cannot control. Resident representatives with voting power. My children's names and images never used in advertising. Everything in writing. Marcus did not negotiate. Agreed. Andre began drafting the document. By evening, Nia had signed her statement, and Dana had secured one final motel night while the hearing remained pending. It was not safety. It was time. Just before midnight, an envelope slid beneath the motel door. Inside was a settlement offer large enough to cover a house, a reliable car, and years of medicine. The final page required silence. Evelyn Shaw's signature waited at the bottom. Nia sat on the edge of the bed while her children slept within arm's reach. For the first time, silence had a number, and it was more money than she had ever imagined refusing. Nia did not sleep. She sat beside the motel window until dawn, the settlement papers resting on her knees while headlights moved across the ceiling in slow white bands. The amount printed on the first page could have changed everything by breakfast. A house, a dependable car, Zoe's medicine without counting doses, Caleb in one school for longer than a semester, Maya with a room where her drawings would not have to be packed into grocery bags. For several minutes, Nia let herself imagine saying yes. Then Zoe shifted beneath the blanket and reached in her sleep for Maya's hand. Nia looked at the final page again. In exchange for payment, she would withdraw her complaint, decline public testimony, and agree that Bennett Urban Holdings had fulfilled all relocation obligations. The language was clean, professional, almost gentle. That was what made it cruel. By 8:30, the city hearing room was full. Former Riverside residents filled the back rows. Reporters crowded the aisle. Marcus sat behind a long table with Andre and two attorneys who no longer represented him personally, but still carried boxes of company records. Evelyn sat at the opposite end, composed in a cream suit, her expression unreadable. Nia entered holding the settlement envelope inside her plastic file box. Dana walked beside her. Caleb, Maya, and Zoe waited with Lena in a small family room down the hall. The hearing began with financial projections. Evelyn spoke first. She explained that delaying the Riverside project could trigger lender withdrawals, contractor layoffs, and the loss of more than 2,000 jobs. She did not raise her voice. She did not insult Nia. She placed charts on the screen and made every consequence sound measurable. Compassion matters, Evelyn said, but leadership requires protecting the greatest number of people possible. Several council members nodded. Nia understood why. Evelyn's argument was not empty. That made the choice harder. When Nia's name was called, she carried the box to the witness table. Her hands felt cold, but they did not shake. She placed the relocation notice down first, then the certified mail receipt, then the voicemail transcript, then the payment record bearing a signature she had never written. Mrs. Carter, the council chair said, "Did you receive the $8,000 listed here?" "No." "Did you voluntarily leave Riverside Gardens?" "No." "Were you offered a settlement last night?" The room changed. Nia heard chairs shift behind her. Evelyn's face remained still. Nia removed the envelope and set it on the table. "Yes." "Would you like it entered into the record?" Nia looked through the glass panel in the door. Caleb stood on the other side with one hand against it. He could not hear her, but he was watching. She opened the envelope, removed the agreement, and tore it once down the center. The sound was small. The silence afterward was not. "My children need a home," she said. "But so do the children whose mothers were not offered silence money." No one moved. Nia continued, not with a speech, but with facts. 46 names. 46 altered records. Families moved before payments arrived. Appeals marked closed after they were received. Every document had a date. Every date had a consequence. When she finished, Marcus stood. His attorneys whispered for him to wait, but he carried a sealed drive to the council clerk. "This contains internal approval logs, vendor payments, deleted file indexes, and executive incentive structures," he said. "It also contains evidence of my failure to create oversight strong enough to prevent this." Walter Gaines rose from the company table. "Marcus, you are not authorized to release proprietary records." Marcus looked at him. "Then record that I did it without authorization." Evelyn finally turned toward him. Something passed across her face. Anger, perhaps, or recognition. "You will lose the company," she said quietly. "Then I should have built one worth keeping." The council called an emergency recess. For 43 minutes, the residents waited beneath lights that hummed like insects. Nia sat beside Dana with her hands around a paper cup of water. Marcus stood alone near the wall. He did not approach her. He did not ask whether she thought he had done enough. When the council returned, the chair read the order slowly. Demolition at Riverside was suspended. An independent audit would begin immediately. Emergency housing funds would be released through a nonprofit administrator. Resident representatives would receive voting seats on the compensation board. Bennett Urban Holdings would surrender control of the fund pending investigation. Evelyn was placed on administrative leave. Marcus remained suspended from operations. There was no applause at first, only breathing. Then someone behind Nia began to cry. Outside the hearing room, Caleb ran toward her and wrapped both arms around her waist. Maya followed. Zoe reached up until Nia lifted her. Marcus stood several feet away, holding no office, no authority, and no promise he could make certain. Nia met his eyes. "You finally listened," she said. Marcus looked through the open doors at the families gathering their papers. "You finally gave me something worth losing power for." 6 months later, Nia woke before the alarm in a quiet apartment where the heater worked without being begged. For several seconds, she remained still, listening. Caleb's soft footsteps moved down the hallway. Maya whispered to Zoe about cereal. Pipes carried water through the walls. Somewhere outside, a city bus sighed at the corner. Ordinary sounds. Safe sounds. Nia turned toward the small table beside her bed, where a framed drawing stood beneath the lamp. A blue van. A yellow light. For crooked figures beneath blankets. Mom kept us safe. The apartment was not large. Caleb slept in the narrow room near the kitchen, while Maya and Zoe shared the second bedroom. Nia still counted every dollar before payday, and the used sedan parked outside had a stain on the passenger seat that no cleaner could remove. But the rent came from her wages at the clinic. The security deposit had been covered by the Independent Riverside Compensation Fund after auditors confirmed her relocation payment had been diverted. Nothing had arrived as a favor. Every step had a document, a hearing, and months of work behind it. At the clinic, Nia had become the person frightened patients asked for by name. She still worked intake, but she also coordinated housing referrals and transportation support for families who missed appointments because survival had rearranged their calendars. When the Community Oversight Board announced an opening for a program director at a new safe parking site, she applied. 3 interviews. A background check. A written plan. No quiet phone call from Marcus. No position created to rescue her. She earned it. That evening, strings of warm lights glowed above the old McDonald's parking lot. The restaurant had closed years earlier, but its brick building had been renovated into showers, laundry rooms, offices, and a small overnight childcare center. Fresh white lines marked 24 parking spaces. Each one had access to electricity, security, and a locked storage unit. A blue sign near the entrance read "Lights on Community Center." Nia stood beneath it holding a clipboard while families arrived one car at a time. No cameras were allowed near the sleeping areas. No names were given to donors without permission. The rules had been written by people who had once needed the spaces themselves. Marcus arrived carrying a folding table under one arm and a box of paper cups under the other. He no longer ran Bennett Urban Holdings day to day. The audit had cleared him of taking the relocation money, but it had also confirmed years of weak oversight and pressure-driven management. He returned to the board only after accepting an independent chief executive, resident voting seats, and public compliance reports. Evelyn resigned before the final findings were released. She later testified about the internal incentives that had shaped her decisions. Accountability did not erase what she had done, but it kept the truth from becoming simple enough to forget. Marcus set down the table beside Nia. "You are late," she said. He checked his watch. By 43 seconds. The program director notices details. "I have heard she is difficult." Nia handed him a roll of tape. "She has standards." Their relationship had grown in small, careful pieces after the financial ties between them ended. Coffee after oversight meetings. A walk through the park with the children. Long conversations in which Marcus learned not to solve every silence. And Nia learned that accepting companionship was not the same as surrendering control. He had never asked the children to call him anything but Marcus. Zoe ignored that rule whenever it suited her. By midnight, every family was checked in. Caleb helped stack blankets. Maya taped her drawings to the children's room wall. Zoe fell asleep in a chair with one hand around her inhaler case. Marcus sat beside the entrance, meaning only to rest for a moment. When Nia returned with 2 cups of coffee, she found him asleep beneath the soft yellow lights, his sleeves rolled up and a strip of painter's tape stuck to his wrist. She placed 1 cup on the table and tapped the surface gently. His eyes opened. "Sir," she said, "you cannot sleep here." Marcus looked through the glass doors. Outside, engines were quiet. Curtains covered windows. Children slept without tow trucks waiting behind them. "Then I suppose I should go home," he said. Zoe stirred, climbed from the chair, and took his hand before Nia could answer. "You can come with us." Marcus looked at Nia, asking without words. She picked up the second coffee and smiled. "Only if you carry the blankets." He did. The first night, he had found a family hiding in a car beneath a light that felt like a warning. 6 months later, they walked home together beneath lights built to keep other families safe.